Have you ever wondered if some of the foods sitting in your kitchen right now could influence one of the most powerful defense systems inside your body? Not by acting as a miracle cure, and certainly not by replacing medical care, but by supporting the remarkable biological processes that help keep us healthy every single day. For decades, many people believed food simply provided calories, protein, vitamins, and minerals. But modern research has uncovered something far more fascinating. Scientists now understand that certain foods can interact with the body's natural systems in surprisingly sophisticated ways. They may support healthy blood vessels, influence inflammation, help maintain a balanced immune response, nourish the gut microbiome, and even contribute to the body's ability to identify and remove damaged cells. Perhaps most surprising of all, researchers have discovered that the same biological systems involved in maintaining overall health are also being studied for their role in reducing the conditions that may allow diseases, including cancer, to develop over time. That's why today's conversation is so important. Inspired by the work of Dr. William Li, a physician, scientist, and researcher known for exploring the connection between nutrition and human biology, we'll examine what current evidence actually says about foods that may support the body's natural defenses. We'll separate scientific findings from exaggerated headlines and explore how everyday dietary choices may influence long-term health. Because the goal isn't to find a magical superfood, it's to understand how small, consistent decisions can work together over years to support healthier aging. And the first discovery completely changes how many people think about food. For generations, nutrition advice focused on avoiding what was bad. Eat less sugar, reduce saturated fat, cut back on processed foods. While those recommendations still have value, scientists eventually realized they were asking only half the question. The more interesting question became this: what should we actively eat to help the body function at its best? That shift transformed nutrition science. Researchers began studying not just nutrients, but how foods communicate with the body's biology. Instead of acting like passive fuel, certain foods appear to send signals that influence cellular activity, gene expression, immune function, metabolism, and tissue repair. This idea may sound surprising, but your body is constantly listening to chemical messages from the food you consume. Every meal contains thousands of naturally occurring compounds called phytochemicals. Plants produce these compounds to protect themselves from insects, sunlight, disease, and environmental stress. When humans eat those plants, many of these compounds continue interacting with biological pathways inside our own bodies. Scientists are still uncovering exactly how many of these interactions work, but evidence increasingly suggests that a diverse, plant-rich diet may support several of the body's natural defense systems. However, that's not the most interesting part. One of Dr. William Lee's most well-known areas of research involves something called angiogenesis. Although the word sounds complicated, the concept is surprisingly simple. Your body is constantly growing tiny blood vessels. This process is essential for life. Blood vessels deliver oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and immune cells to every organ. Without them, wounds couldn't heal, muscles couldn't recover after exercise, new tissues couldn't grow. Healthy angiogenesis is one of the reasons your body repairs itself so effectively, but balance is everything. Too little blood vessel growth can interfere with healing. Too much, or growth in the wrong places, may contribute to certain diseases. Researchers have been studying this delicate balance for decades. What's fascinating is that evidence suggests some naturally occurring compounds found in foods may help support healthy regulation of this process. That doesn't mean food can stop disease. It means nutrition may become one piece of a much larger picture that includes genetics, lifestyle, physical activity, environmental exposures, sleep, and appropriate medical care. This balanced perspective is exactly what makes the science so compelling. Take tomatoes, for example. For years, they were simply considered a healthy vegetable, or technically a fruit. But researchers later identified lycopene, the pigment responsible for their rich red color. Studies have associated higher dietary intake of lycopene rich foods with various aspects of long term health, particularly when tomatoes are cooked with a small amount of healthy fat like olive oil, which improves absorption. Interestingly, cooking tomatoes actually increases the availability of lycopene. Sometimes nutrition isn't just about what you eat, it's also about how you prepare it. And that unexpected detail reminds us that nature often works differently than we assume. The same pattern appears with another familiar food. Green tea has been consumed for thousands of years, yet only recently have scientists begun understanding some of the compounds behind its reputation. Green tea contains catechins, particularly one called EGCG. Laboratory and observational research suggests these compounds may support healthy cellular function, help manage oxidative stress, and influence pathways involved in normal cell growth. Researchers continue investigating these effects, but the overall message remains consistent. Rather than looking for a single active ingredient, whole foods provide combinations of beneficial compounds that may work together. This concept is known as food synergy. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Modern nutrition science increasingly suggests that isolated supplements don't always produce the same outcomes observed when people eat nutrient rich foods. Why? Because an apple isn't simply vitamin C. It's fiber, polyphenols, flavonoids, natural sugars, water, and hundreds of plant compounds interacting simultaneously. Broccoli isn't just one antioxidant. It's an entire biochemical package. Nature rarely delivers nutrients one at a time. That realization has shifted how many scientists think about healthy eating. Instead of chasing individual nutrients, they're increasingly studying dietary patterns. One dietary pattern consistently attracting attention is the Mediterranean diet. People living in regions traditionally following this eating style often consume vegetables, legumes, fruits, nuts, olive oil, herbs, fish, beans, and whole grains as dietary staples. Research has associated this overall pattern with healthy aging, cardiovascular health, cognitive function, and lower levels of chronic inflammation. Notice something important. There isn't one magical ingredient, it's the combination. Thousands of small choices accumulate into meaningful biological effects over time. Yet researchers discovered another piece of the puzzle that many people rarely consider: your immune system. When most people hear immune system, they think about fighting infections. But scientists now know its responsibilities are much broader. Every day, your immune system patrols billions of cells, identifying viruses, bacteria, damaged tissue, and cells that no longer behave normally. It's constantly monitoring your internal environment. To perform these tasks efficiently, immune cells require energy, nutrients, and communication signals. That's where nutrition enters the picture once again. Colorful fruits and vegetables provide vitamins, minerals, and plant compounds associated with healthy immune function. Foods rich in omega-3 fats, including salmon, sardines, and walnuts, have been studied for their role in supporting balanced inflammatory responses. Fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and sauerkraut may help maintain a diverse gut microbiome, which scientists increasingly recognize as an important partner of immune health. In fact, researchers estimate that much of the immune system interacts closely with the digestive tract, which leads to another remarkable discovery. The trillions of microorganisms living inside your intestines are not passive passengers. Collectively known as the gut microbiome, they help digest fiber, produce beneficial compounds, interact with immune cells, and communicate with organs throughout the body. Some scientists even describe the microbiome as an additional organ because of its wide-ranging influence. When people consume diets rich in diverse plant foods, beneficial bacteria often produce short-chain fatty acids during fermentation of dietary fiber. These compounds have been associated with maintaining the integrity of the intestinal lining and supporting healthy immune communication. Again, none of this represents a guarantee, but it highlights how deeply connected nutrition is with human biology. However, there's another misconception that deserves attention. Many people believe healthy eating begins only after illness appears. Research suggests The greatest opportunity often exists much earlier. The body is constantly repairing itself. DNA damage occurs naturally. Proteins become worn. Cells age. Inflammation rises and falls. Oxidative stress fluctuates. Fortunately, the body also possesses sophisticated repair systems designed to respond continuously. The quality of sleep, physical activity, stress management, environmental exposures, and nutrition all contribute to the environment in which those repair systems operate. Think of your health less like a light switch and more like a garden. You don't water a garden once and expect lifelong growth. You care for it consistently. Nutrition works in much the same way. One healthy meal won't transform your future. One indulgent meal won't define it either. The patterns repeated over months and years are what matter most. And that's encouraging because it means improvement doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. Researchers studying populations with exceptional longevity repeatedly observe similar habits. People tend to eat a wide variety of minimally processed foods. They consume beans, vegetables, fruits, herbs, nuts, and whole grains regularly. They remain physically active. They prioritize social connection. They sleep adequately, and they rarely depend on one single food for health. Instead, they build lifestyles that allow the body's natural systems to function effectively. Yet the real discovery came years later. Scientists realized these lifestyle factors don't operate independently. Exercise affects the microbiome. Sleep influences immune function. Stress changes metabolism. Nutrition supports recovery from physical activity. Each factor strengthens the others. Health isn't created by isolated decisions. It's created through biological teamwork. That perspective changes everything. Rather than asking, which food fights disease, a better question becomes, which daily habits create an internal environment that supports long-term health? And when researchers frame the question that way, the answers become both more realistic and more empowering. Because nearly everyone can begin making small improvements today, regardless of age. Even adding one extra serving of colorful vegetables, replacing sugary beverages with green tea or water occasionally, choosing olive oil instead of heavily processed fats, or including beans in meals more often may gradually improve overall dietary quality. Small changes compound, just like interest in a savings account. Only this investment is being made inside your own biology. And believe it or not, one of the most powerful foods studied by scientists isn't exotic, expensive, or difficult to find. In fact, it's probably something you've walked past countless times at the grocery store without giving it a second thought. We'll explore that surprising discovery next. That food is the humble cruciferous vegetable. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, bok choy, and similar vegetables have attracted enormous scientific interest over the past several decades. They may not have the excitement of an exotic superfood, but their chemistry is remarkably sophisticated. When these vegetables are chopped or chewed, they produce naturally occurring compounds such as sulforaphane and indole-3 carbinol. Scientists have been investigating these compounds because laboratory and human studies suggest they may influence the body's natural detoxification systems, support normal cellular function, and help protect cells from everyday oxidative stress. What's particularly interesting is that these vegetables don't simply add nutrients to the body, they appear to activate biological pathways that are already built into our cells. Think of it like updating software rather than replacing hardware. Your body already contains countless protective systems. Certain foods may simply provide signals that encourage those systems to function efficiently. However, researchers discovered something else that surprised them. The amount of beneficial compounds produced depends partly on how these vegetables are prepared. Overcooking can reduce the activity of the enzyme responsible for forming sulforaphane. Light steaming, on the other hand, may preserve more of this natural process while still making the vegetables enjoyable to eat. It's another reminder that nutrition isn't only about what appears on your plate. Preparation matters. Yet, there's another group of foods that researchers continue returning to again and again: berries. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and other deeply colored fruits are packed with anthocyanins, flavonoids, and numerous polyphenols. These colorful compounds give berries their vibrant appearance, but they may also contribute to healthy aging. Research suggests diets rich in berries are associated with cognitive health, healthy blood vessels, and balanced inflammatory responses. As we grow older, maintaining brain health becomes one of the greatest priorities. Many people assume memory changes happen suddenly. Scientists see a different picture. Brain aging is influenced by decades of accumulated lifestyle factors: sleep quality, physical activity, blood sugar regulation, cardiovascular health, nutrition, mental stimulation, social connection. Each contributes another piece of the puzzle. Because the brain depends on a continuous supply of oxygen and nutrients, maintaining healthy blood vessels becomes essential. This is one reason cardiovascular health and brain health are so closely connected. What's good for the heart is often good for the brain. And this is where olive oil enters the conversation once again. Extra virgin olive oil contains naturally occurring polyphenols that researchers have studied for their antioxidant properties and their association with cardiovascular wellness. Combined with vegetables, legumes, fish, nuts, and whole grains, olive oil becomes part of a dietary pattern repeatedly linked with healthy aging. Notice a recurring theme? No single food stands alone. Health emerges from combinations. Scientists call this dietary patterns. Our bodies simply experience it as everyday living. But perhaps the biggest misunderstanding in nutrition involves sugar. Many people believe sugar itself is either completely harmless or entirely toxic. The evidence paints a much more balanced picture. Glucose is the body's primary fuel. Every cell relies on it. The issue isn't that sugar exists. The challenge often comes from excessive intake of highly refined foods that digest rapidly while providing very little fiber, protein, or micronutrients. Whole fruit illustrates this perfectly. Although fruit contains natural sugars, it also provides fiber, water, vitamins, minerals, and hundreds of plant compounds. That fiber slows digestion, helping create a very different metabolic response compared with sugary drinks or heavily processed snacks. Scientists increasingly emphasize food quality over simplistic labels. Carbohydrates are not all identical. Neither are fats, nor proteins. Context matters. The same principle applies to fats. For many years, all fats were grouped together. Today, researchers understand there are important differences. Nuts, seeds, avocados, and fatty fish provide unsaturated fats that are associated with heart health and healthy cellular function. Meanwhile, repeatedly consuming highly processed foods rich in refined carbohydrates and certain industrially processed fats may contribute to poorer dietary quality. Again, the focus isn't perfection, it's direction. Every meal becomes another opportunity to move toward healthier patterns. However, one factor influences nearly every aspect of metabolism, and many people underestimate its importance: muscle. Most people think muscles exist primarily for strength or appearance. Scientists now recognize skeletal muscle as one of the body's largest metabolic organs. Healthy muscle helps regulate blood sugar, it supports mobility, it contributes to balance, it stores amino acids, it communicates with other organs through signaling molecules released during physical activity. As people age, preserving muscle becomes increasingly important. This doesn't necessarily require becoming a competitive athlete. Evidence consistently shows that resistance training, combined with adequate dietary protein, may help maintain muscle mass throughout adulthood. Walking remains one of the most accessible forms of physical activity. Adding strength exercises a few times each week provides another valuable layer of support. Together, movement and nutrition reinforce one another. One without the other leaves untapped potential. Yet researchers later discovered another fascinating connection. Exercise doesn't only strengthen muscles, it also changes the chemistry of the brain. During physical activity, the body releases signaling molecules that researchers associate with learning, mood, and cognitive function. Exercise also improves circulation, supports metabolic health, and complements many of the nutritional strategies we've discussed. In other words, the healthiest diet in the world cannot completely replace the benefits of regular movement. Likewise, exercise alone cannot fully compensate for consistently poor nutrition. They're partners, not competitors. And that partnership becomes even more important when we consider aging. Many people fear growing older because they associate aging with inevitable decline. But scientists increasingly distinguish between chronological age and biological age. Chronological age is simply the number of birthdays you've celebrated. Biological age reflects how well your body's systems continue functioning. Although genetics certainly play a role, lifestyle appears to influence many aspects of biological aging. Researchers continue studying how nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress management, and social relationships contribute to this process. This doesn't mean we can stop aging. Aging is a natural part of life, but evidence suggests we may influence how well we age. That's a profoundly hopeful message, not because it promises perfection, because it reminds us that our daily decisions matter. Let's return for a moment to one of Dr. William Lee's central ideas. The body is not passive, it's active. Every minute, blood vessels adapt, immune cells patrol, DNA repair mechanisms operate, stem cells replace worn tissues. The microbiome communicates with the immune system. Hormones coordinate metabolism. The liver filters compounds. The kidneys maintain balance. The brain continuously rewires itself in response to experience. Your body is working for you around the clock. Nutrition becomes one way of supporting that extraordinary effort, not through magic, through biology. Perhaps that's the most inspiring lesson modern science has given us. Health is rarely created by dramatic moments. It's created by ordinary decisions repeated consistently. Choosing vegetables more often, preparing meals at home, eating a wider variety of colorful plants, including legumes several times each week, replacing some refined snacks with nuts or fruit, drinking water more frequently, moving your body every day, sleeping enough to allow recovery, managing stress in healthy ways, maintaining meaningful relationships. None of these habits sounds revolutionary on its own. Together, they become remarkably powerful. Researchers studying populations known for exceptional longevity continue finding these same themes. The foods vary from culture to culture, the recipes differ, the traditions change, but the underlying patterns remain surprisingly similar. Meals built around whole foods, regular movement, strong communities, purpose, moderation, consistency. It's almost as if the fundamentals of human health have been hiding in plain sight all along. And perhaps that's why nutrition science continues evolving in such an encouraging direction. Instead of searching for miracle foods, researchers increasingly focus on building resilient biological systems. Instead of asking what destroys health overnight, they ask what supports health over decades. That shift changes the conversation from fear to opportunity. You don't have to eat perfectly. You don't have to eliminate every favorite food. You don't have to chase expensive supplements or complicated trends. You simply have to improve the overall pattern, meal by meal, day by day, year by year, because every healthy choice becomes part of a much larger story. Imagine your body 20 years from now, looking back at the decisions you make today. Every serving of vegetables, every walk after dinner, every good night's sleep, every balanced meal, every moment spent investing in your future health. Individually, they may seem almost insignificant. Collectively, they become the foundation upon which healthy aging is built. Modern science continues uncovering new details about nutrition and longevity every year. There is still much to learn. Researchers continue investigating how food interacts with genetics, metabolism, immunity, and the microbiome. New discoveries will undoubtedly refine our understanding, but one message has remained remarkably consistent across decades of research. The foods we eat don't simply become part of us, they interact with us. They communicate with our biology. They influence the environment in which our cells operate. And over time, those interactions may shape far more than we once imagined. That's why understanding evidence based nutrition is so valuable. Not because it offers shortcuts, but because it empowers informed decisions. The decisions we make today may seem small: choosing colorful vegetables instead of processed snacks, preparing a home cooked meal, taking a walk after dinner, sharing healthy food with family and friends. None of those choices creates instant transformation. Yet over years and decades, those same choices may influence how we age, how energetic we feel, how resilient our bodies remain, and how well we're able to enjoy the lives we've worked so hard to build. Science continues to evolve, and no single food can guarantee a particular outcome. But the growing body of evidence points toward an encouraging truth: our everyday habits matter. So the next time you sit down to eat, remember that your meal is more than calories on a plate. It's an opportunity to support the remarkable systems already working inside you: your immune system, your blood vessels, your metabolism, your microbiome, and the countless biological processes that quietly help sustain your health every single day. Because longevity isn't built in one extraordinary moment, it's built in thousands of ordinary ones. And that's why understanding the science matters.